Step 1, wake up early, gonna rise with the sun. Step 2, get some good, some food in you. Step 3, think real hard about what you wanna be. Step 4, everybody just do your thing.
In the silence, they always find each other. Their relationship is not just about physical presence. This kind of love doesn't always require holding hands. Sometimes, true love lives strongest in silence, when two souls feel each other without having to speak. There are days when the world feels too noisy for Jungkook. Popularity is a double-edged sword, lifting him high, but also making him feel alone in the crowd. But in every emptiness, Taehyung is always there, whether through a small message, an old photo that suddenly appears, or just a warm memory like a blanket on a rainy night. And when they meet again, there's no need for many words. Their gazes tell the story. They dive into each other. In silence, in song lyrics, in the art they create. Taehyung writes songs that sound like secret letters to someone he keeps very close. Jungkook sings notes that feel like an outpouring of feelings that he never had the chance to say. They don't point fingers at each other, but sensitive souls will feel. The song isn't just a song. It's a message. It's a story disguised in melody. And when the world trying to guess if this was just a bromance or something more, they didn't deny it, but they didn't explain it either. Because what they had was too sacred to be boxed in. They didn't need validation from the world. All they needed was each other. While filming the documentary, the camera caught a small moment. Jungkook looking at Taehyung when the others weren't looking. His gaze was soft, almost like a child looking at something he admired. And when Taehyung cried, whether from stress, fatigue, or silent devastation, Jungkook wasn't the first to ask, "What's wrong?" But he was the one who sat closest, who quietly touched his back, offering comfort that didn't require a sound. That was them. Not that they never had conflicts, but they always came back. Always found their way home. Even as the world changed, as people came and went, as time began to erode things, the bond remained. Unshakable. And maybe this is what true love is. A love that isn't announced but felt. Love that is not built from grand gestures, but from thousands of small moments collected silently. Like Jungkook, who keeps their Polaroid photos in his wallet. Like Taehyung, who calls Jungkook, the one who makes me calm, without having to mention their name. They never said, "We are one." But everything about them always comes back to one meeting point. As if fate had written their names side by side from the start. As if the universe itself knew, these two hearts, even though they don't say much, have chosen each other. And if one day, when the big stages are over, when the spotlight starts to fade and everyone has left, maybe only one thing will remain. Taehyung and Jungkook, sitting side by side, laughing because of something only the two of them understand. Because true love doesn't always need recognition. Sometimes, true love just needs the courage to survive, in silence, in longing, in time that never stops running. They grew up together, but also learned on their own. There were distances that had been present, like seasons that came without permission. But not a single season managed to freeze what they kept in their chests. Because no matter how far their steps took them, their hearts still found their way to each other. Taehyung, with his artistic soul, often seemed to float in a world that only he understood. But Jungkook always knew how to bring him back to earth, without damaging the wings of his imagination. While Jungkook, the perfectionist who was often too hard on himself, found peace in Taehyung's lazy laughter, in the unpredictability that he always brought. They were two poles that should have repelled each other, but instead attracted each other, like a natural law that could never be explained by logic alone. And maybe that's why their love never felt like a memorized fairy tale, but like a poem written straight from the heart, without the need for rhyme, without the need for reason. There was such naked honesty in the way they looked at each other. There was a feeling that couldn't be faked. To the world, they were stars. But to each other, they were home. When the concert was over and the lights started to go down, when all the applause stopped, that was when their story spoke the loudest. In the silent backstage, behind the stage that was only shadowed, they kept looking for each other. Waiting for each other. Because it wasn't the cheers of the audience that they were chasing, but each other's presence. Who could say silently, "I'm here"? And maybe, if anyone could read between their breaths, they would hear a promise that was never said. No matter what happens, I will still choose you. Because in the end, true love isn't about who says "I love you" the most, but who is always there, even when the world stops caring. There are things that aren't captured on camera, but are felt strongly behind the scenes. Like the way Taehyung always knows when to give Jungkook space, without feeling abandoned. Or the way Jungkook sometimes holds his phone for a long time before sending a short text. "Are you okay?" And behind those simple words, there's a sea of worry that he doesn't know how to express in more words. They're not a predictable couple. Nor are they ones who like to show off their closeness all the time. But if you're observant enough, you'll notice, behind the seemingly random jokes, there are little habits that only two people who've known each other for more than a decade have. Like Taehyung always knowing Jungkook's favorite ice cream flavor. Like Jungkook being able to imitate Taehyung's laugh just by hearing it once. And in an industry that sometimes crushes feelings for the sake of image, they still make room for each other to be themselves. Amidst their busy schedules, demanding demands, and relentless expectations, they still find a home for each other. Not a grand home, but a warm one. Not a decorated one, but an honest one. A house built from silently caring for each other. There was a moment at the fan meeting, which was only obvious if you watched long enough, where Taehyung looked down and Jungkook quietly touched his knee, as if to say, "I know you're tired, but I'm here." And somehow that was enough. Because their relationship wasn't built on public recognition, but on a silent agreement to stay, even when it would have been so easy to leave. They were a poem that didn't need a title. A song that didn't need a repeating chorus. They just existed. And in that simple presence, love grew. In its purest form, not dependent on status, not dependent on stage. Just two souls who in all the noise of the world still heard each other. And later, when time moves on and hair starts to turn gray, maybe what will be remembered is not how many hits they sang, or how viral their interactions were on social media, but how much they cared for each other, even without needing the word love. They were another definition of always. And in a world that often fades, they are proof that some things can last forever, if they are held in silence, in undeclared loyalty, and in love that chooses not to leave. They know what it's like to hold back. Holding back unspeakable longing, holding back the urge to mention each other's names in a song, holding back gazes that linger too long so as not to become evidence to a world that loves to guess. But they never once held back from being there. There were nights when one of them would wake up with a tight chest, a nightmare, or just plain tired. And without a long explanation, a video call in the middle of the night was enough. Not to talk. Sometimes just to stare at each other in silence, letting their breaths mix through the screen. The world may think it's a normal habit. But for two hearts that are connected, it's a reminder. You're not alone. I'm still here. And on every anniversary, behind the words that sound like public jokes, there's always a deeper layer. Like eyes that can't hide how special a date is to them. Like lyrics written for everyone, but only one person knows the meaning. They've been through a lot, a young debut full of pressure, expectations that keep growing, times when their steps almost separate because they're in different directions. But whenever distance comes, they don't panic. Because they know, what they have is not a bond that can be easily broken by time, not a closeness that depends on how often they are seen together. What they have is understanding. What they have is an undeclared loyalty. And maybe that's why they survive. They don't restrain each other, but protect each other. They don't demand each other, but understand each other. Their love doesn't grow because of constant togetherness, but because of the belief that even though they're not always side by side, they're still one. There are many moments that the public never sees. Like when they sat on a hotel balcony after a concert, just looking at a strange city. Enjoying the silence. Letting the night speak, while their hands were side by side between 2 cups of cooling coffee. And anyone who watched from a distance probably wouldn't understand. But they didn't need to be understood. Because love like this isn't to be shown off. Love like this is only to be kept, in the chest, in memories, in the hopes they slowly form for tomorrow. They're not perfect. But they're enough for each other. And amidst all the noise of coming and going, they still choose each other, again and again and again. No sound. No promises. But with a feeling that never changes.
Today's gonna be a good day, wake up. Today's gonna be a good day, wake up. Today's gonna be a good